do not want your child to be a part of, please let us know. And so therefore, we kind of followed the letter of allowing parents to make some choices. And we have had some parents ask, what is United Students? And we've had some parents say, I do not want my child to be part of that group. Now, if the child would elect to go ahead and be a part of the group, would I divulge that to parents? Probably not. Probably not, but that's my own take.
I know because school boards are elected bodies, by the community. Have these issues shown up in any school board elections that you're aware of, either locally or in any other circumstances that have made the news?
The school board candidates either supporting or opposing gay-straight alliances.
Yeah, and divulgence and the arguments on these issues.
Not in terms of an election, I'm not aware of it, no. But I know when you look at the cases that have been litigated, the school boards tend to stand firmly behind whatever it was the administration did, whether they were right or wrong, ultimately.
I would think I have to commend you in particular, Greg, for being an advisor of this student group, because I would think you'd be in sometimes kind of a tenuous situation. But you don't feel that way, apparently. You've been doing it a while.
Yeah, I will tell you, when I first agreed to sponsor a group of students who wanted to start a GSA, it actually had existed there, but not as a very out group. It was a little scary. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't nervous and didn't know what that would mean for me in terms of public issues and even my job security and all those things. So I've come to a more confident place, and I've kind of arrived there through saying, it is my ethical duty as a school counselor to be there for kids. And this is one issue that is very important to me. And whatever that costs me, I'm willing to take that stand. That's not an easy place to come to, particularly, it's easier in Bloomington than, let's say, a rural community.
Oh, yeah. Do you advise the students on their legal rights? Does that ever come up in any of the meetings?
I let them know. We don't talk really specifically about legal issues, but we do talk about their rights to confidentiality. And then I say to them, and I say this to every student that I talk to, where there could be some issues related to endangerment, and that is, I will be confidential. What we say stays here. But if an issue comes up where I think that you're in danger, I have a duty to report. And then we talk about the duty to report. But, the one thing that counselors, school counselors, and any adult in the school system, the power that they have is to let kids know that that is a confidential, safe space. Otherwise, we will not have students coming to us to tell us the things that we most need to know about supporting them.
Have you ever experienced any pressure from within the administration, when dealing with the situation, to divulge something that you did not feel it was appropriate to divulge?
That's a good question, because as I look back through the years, I've had pressure from administration over many things related to the Gay-Straight Alliance. In terms of actually divulging whether a student is in the group, I don't think that has come up at any specific given time. I have had a parent who specifically said, I do not want my child in this group, a young lady, who was absolutely, this was one of her few means of support. She was supported in lots of other ways, but she actually did not come to group. And but I haven't had an administrator force me to divulge something. No.
What is the potential of an outcome, if you can even hypothetically, maybe this has happened, I don't know. Say you have a student attending one of these groups, and then their parents kind of get a hold of the child, and say, and the child, they come back and they say, no, that you were pressured into saying you were lesbian or gay, and they file a lawsuit, and then they've got the student saying, lying about you. How is that going to play out in a court, as far as, you're not protecting the student anymore. Now you're protecting the counselor and the school system.
Right, you're protecting the entity or the organization itself. And again, these are such fact-sensitive situations. It's impossible to predict in terms of hypotheticals. But what we've talked about and the approach you've taken to counseling, I think, is the right way to do it. It's probably going to result in less litigation than a lot of other ways. I feel for schools because they're in a bad position anymore. Often in these situations, they're going to be sued by somebody. And the question is whether you just do the right thing and hope that the chips fall on the side of justice, so to speak. But it's difficult to predict. In the sort of circumstances you're raising, who knows what the facts would be. There are a lot of students in this group. who can testify as to whether or not this person appeared forced to come to these meetings, or
Sure.
appeared to have been talked into something. There are lots of sort of sources to really gather the facts.
Are there a lot of cases around the country involving the GSA groups and lawsuits?
GSA groups themselves,
Or individuals?
they tend to be, the cases that are out there tend to be on the formation of GSAs, and there are a number of them around the country in the last several years. They tend to arise when schools deny a GSA the right to meet, although they do allow other groups. There have been more cases in recent years about disclosure of students' sexual orientation against them, or threats of disclosure. You tell your parents or we're going to. The first one actually came out of Pennsylvania in 2001. That wasn't it was a student, but not it wasn't a school, but a police officer who had found the kids in the car in a parking lot and figured out they were gay and told them they had to tell their parents. And one student, a few months shy of his high school graduation, committed suicide rather than come out to his grandfather.
Well, now can they force them? I guess police can do what they want to.
Well, and that's what the case was about. Was his constitutional right to privacy violated when that police officer threatened to disclose his sexual orientation?
And legally it was, correct?
And legally, what the Court of Appeals says, there's definitely a cause of action there, and they sent it back for trial. And that was the groundbreaking case. Since then, I know there's been a case in California, the disciplinary case we talked about, that came out of California. There was a case in Arkansas where a student was forced to disclose his sexual orientation to his parents, and the parents were supportive, fortunately, of the student, and opposed to the schools making that a requirement to continue going to school there, and sued on his behalf, and that case settled.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure that's to some extent the exception, but
I can't imagine a school system forcing a child to tell their parents something like that. I mean, I don't.
But Ellen, that comes up all the time. I can tell you in stories we talk about at our conferences, at school counselor conferences, when we're in groups where the conference session is about gay students and supporting gay students. That comes up at every conference, that sometimes people know of other counselors who have called parents, or who have forced a student to call parents on the phone and tell them that they're gay. It totally goes against our ethics, absolutely, as school counselors, and it's clear within our ethical guidelines, but it happens all the time. And in fact, it happened in a county very close to this one a couple of years ago, and we ended up getting that student coming to our group sessions from that county. A counselor, out of religious belief, said, "You must tell your parents, because I believe that this is your parents' right to know."
They didn't know the law very well, did they?
Clearly they did not. But they also received support within that school community, even though it was not illegal, legally supported.
Well, last week I had the opportunity to speak at the GSA at South High School, and they asked me to attend one of their meetings and talk with them. And I was really amazed at, there were about 30 kids there, and they said that not the whole group was there, and they were very outspoken, very bright. I'm amazed at how comfortable this younger generation, and most of them were freshmen. That's what's really interesting, how young they were. They're very confident with themselves. Do you see that in the younger generations now, that they're have a lot better self-image?
Well, it's still a mix in a way, but absolutely more than certainly my generation by far. The younger generation, this is a powerful group. Our Gay Straight Alliance, at least at North, and I'm sure that's the way with Proud too, the United Students Group, these are powerful young people. They're eloquent in their speech, and they're very powerful about advocating for themselves.
Well, thank you both very much for coming in. We are out of time, and we never have enough time to discuss all these things thoroughly, but we will look forward to seeing you again next month.
We look forward to being here.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Very much.
You've been listening to Blooming Out on WFHB. Comments, suggestions, and story ideas can be sent directly to the Blooming Out staff. The email address is outradio@wfhb.org. If you're here and you're queer, we want to put your story on the air. The email address once again is outradio@wfhb.org.